Welcome to the Red Wing League of Women Voters Meet Your 2024 Candidates. My name is Tina Langton and I'm a member of the Executive Committee. Thank you for coming out tonight. We'd like to give a special thanks to the candidates for being here and to our community partners, the City of Red Wing High School and Community Education, AAUW, Red Wing Area Chamber of Commerce, Citizen Climate Lobby, Prairie Island Indian Community, and Hispanic Outreach for helping us bring this event to you. If you have questions during the event, please use note cards that were provided and raise your hand. A question runner will collect it and bring it to our trained question facilitators. For more than 100 years, League of Women Voters has been a trusted source for nonpartisan voter registration and education, and a long-standing witness to Minnesota's proud tradition of voter access and election integrity. We invite you to visit our state website, lwvmn.org, to learn about the statutes, best practices, and safeguards associated with Minnesota elections, and then follow the link to vote411.org for one-stop shop for all your election needs, personalized to your ballot, and that includes a voter's guide. We hope all of our candidates have submitted their information to the voter guide for your review. League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan, not-for-profit organization focused on grassroots voter education. We encourage active and informed participation in government and do not endorse candidates for office or political parties. The opinions expressed tonight are those of the candidates and not those of League of Women Voters. If you're interested in learning more about the League, please stop by our information table in the hall. Before we hear from our candidates, we have some general information and guidelines to share. The forum this evening is being recorded by the City of Red Wing for later broadcast. The recordings will be made available on local cable access channels, our local and state league Facebook pages, as well as the city's social media sites. The school board and city forums have already been posted, so please review those, and this will be up in just a couple days. Vote411.org is a voter guide where you can check your voter registration, find information about your ballot and the candidates. Now I would like to introduce our moderator for this evening's forum, Lisa Bailey. Lisa's a Red Wing resident and a longtime League of Women Voters member and past president. A former member of the Red Wing City Council, she now works for Hennepin County as Director of Safe Communities. Thank you, Lisa, for moderating our forum.
Thank you, Tina. I'm Lisa Bailey. I'm very pleased to be here. And at first, I want to just apologize for my scratchy voice. It doesn't hurt at all. It just sounds bad on the last day of a cold. So bear with me. It's a great honor to be here with you tonight. I especially want to welcome the candidates who are here in the audience and up on the stage, who are participating in one of the most basic parts of our democracy, actually being willing to throw your hat in the ring for election. I'm going to give a few ground rules first. The questions for the candidates were collected online, by email, and by mail, and then reviewed by an experienced League of Women Voters team. We received more questions than could be answered, so we've made an effort to select questions that represent the most asked about topics. We're doing things a little bit differently tonight for the first part of the forum. For the Goodhue County Commissioner elections, we have two candidates who are running unopposed, and we thought it would be interesting to ask some questions that came from the community, but then they'll open the floor open to them to just discuss some of the issues that are happening before the county these days. So that's what we're going to do tonight with this group. And first we'll have each candidate will have 90 seconds to make an opening statement, and then we'll have some questions with 2 minutes to respond to each of those questions. And then after the opportunity for sort of casual conversation, candidates will have 60 seconds for a closing statement. Time is being kept tonight by Red Heart and Meyer Beckner. We'd like to thank them for that. A few comments. You'll notice I'm not going to use any titles tonight in order to avoid any bias towards incumbent candidates, and that goes for both sections of this evening's event. I've gone over the format with each of the candidates, and all of the candidates have been asked before tonight's event to ask supporters to refrain from wearing campaign paraphernalia or waving signs. And I ask that the observers be respectful of the candidates and other observers and keep a civil and respectful tone, which I'm sure everyone will do. We'd ask that you not applaud, speak, or shout, or make other audible responses while the candidates are speaking. Any time that's spent doing that takes up time from the opportunity that we have to discuss the issues. You'll be invited to applaud for all the candidates at the end of their closing statements. We've also asked candidates to refrain from saying anything that might be considered a personal statement about the other candidates. We expect candidates to speak truthfully. We reserve the right to allow a candidate or league member to respond if those guidelines are not followed. I will not be fact-checking tonight, just so you know. That's something we rely on you and the other candidates to do. And at this time, I will introduce, we have changed things up, as I said. We're going to first just have the county commissioners candidates address us, and that will be, I guess I'd ask you first of all to welcome our candidates before we jump into the questions. Our candidates tonight are Linda Flanders and Sue Betcher, and thank you very much for being here tonight. And first we'd like to ask for the opening statements. Linda, would you please start us off with your opening statement, followed by Sue?
Sure. Thank you. Well, good evening, everybody, and thank you very much for attending tonight. Thank you to the League for putting this on for everyone. But I'm well aware of how valuable time is, so I am very grateful that you all chose to be willing to come here tonight. So my name is Linda Flanders, and I am the County Commissioner for District 1, which goes from pretty much the post office all the way out to Welch. And I come from a background in law enforcement, which I believe gives me skills that some people may not have. More than anything, the idea of logically being able to put things into proper perspective and to think of how to plan, and also to look for evidence to support what anybody says from that standpoint. I personally I see the world going very, very quickly, and the changes that are happening and the decisions that need to be made for the people going into the future. That's pretty much why I want to be part of being a commissioner, is to be able to help plan that future trajectory. Thank you.
I'm Sue Betcher. I'm the other Redwood Commissioner. Each of us have one township in addition. I have Wakuta Township and Linda has Welch Township. And for me, if you start down at Levy Park and drive all the way out to the middle school, anything to the left-hand side are people who I represent. I want to also begin by thanking you for coming. I think the more people we have participating in our democracy and learning about candidates, the better. And so I'm hoping, even though there aren't a lot of people here tonight, that there'll be people who will watch the recording. I also want to thank my fellow candidates. It is kind of scary to put your hat in the ring and run for election. And even though we're unopposed, we're both a little bit nervous about doing the public speaking tonight. I do think it's notable that all four of the candidates are women. And it's not that I think candidates should only be women, but I think it's really wonderful to see more women getting involved. And I do think the work that the League of Women Voters does to make these forums happen all over the country is really a great benefit to our democracy. So I appreciate that too. You know, in my job as a county commissioner, I start with thinking about the mission of county government, which is to promote the health, safety, and well-being of residents. So that's what I start with every decision we make. And then the second thing that I really think about is that we're spending your money. We're spending all the residents' money. And we want to make sure that we're doing that wisely and that we're demonstrating good results and value for all of you. And this took me longer than I thought, so I'll be ready to move on to the questions.
Thank you. And I will say that we've heard back from other residents after the last two forums that people are watching this online. So I'm sure this will reach others. Okay, we'll start with the first question, and we'll go the other way and ask that you just sort of rotate who goes first. So we'll go Sue first. What is your plan for encouraging new small businesses to move to Goodhue County?
Well, I think I'll talk about it more broadly. I think one of the problems that we have in Goodhue County is that we're not growing very much. And for much of the county, growth is pretty flat to non-existent. And so I've talked to young people about, well, what would it take for you to want to move to Red Wing? And the answers I got every time were housing and jobs. And so I think for the county to grow, we do need to focus on both of those things. As far as jobs, what I think we have to do is to make sure that there's spaces available. One of the things that the county does is support Red Wing Ignite, which is an incubator for new startups. And it's certainly the hope that that will help bring new jobs to the county.
Well, I believe the question was, what plan do I have? And I won't claim that I actually have a plan. I think Susan covered some of the issues that we run into, that to bring people in, Goodhue County on the outside parts from the cities, it's an agricultural county. So, I mean, the businesses pretty much need to be agricultural businesses. To bring businesses in, you also have to have places for people to live. And to have places for people to live, you have to have affordable housing. And when I said in my opening statement about the idea of the future and that things are changing so rapidly, one of the biggest issues that I do see is the interconnectedness of so many of the issues that we are dealing with. You can't look at just one because this feeds into it, and this feeds into that.
Thank you. All right, next one we'll start with Linda and then Sue. Excuse me. Issues of water quality arise in the karst hills of southeast Minnesota. Animal feedlots can present a problem in this region as feedlot runoff percolates nearly unimpeded to important water sources. Do you see a path to protection of water quality from polluting sources?
There is free testing available through the state of Minnesota for wells. I would encourage anyone who has an independent well to do just that. Now, one of the issues that I see is the PFAS, which is PFAS. I can't remember how to pronounce it. But it is microplastics, where plastic breaks down and it gets so small that it cannot be found within the water, but it is within the water. And that is a huge issue that comes from pollution. And that is something that we need to tackle at the state level as well as locally. And I, for one, have been very interested in the Mississippi River. It's number 6 on the most endangered rivers list. It is the lifeblood of the heartland. And I have begun to help counties get going to try to help clean up the river for just that reason, to have clear water.
Well, there's a lot of things I'm not expert on, and nitrates in groundwater is one of those things, but I know a little bit about it. I know that our karst geography is a problem. I know that the county, there's a few things that we do. We have the soil and water department, and we have land use who regulates feedlots. And so I think that we have to work with soil and water and work with land use as well as with the state of Minnesota to both do the testing, but also then find ways to keep more nitrates from going into the water or minimizing that. And I think we can do that.
Thank you. Next question, we'll have Sue start and then Linda. Goodhue County is considering converting an empty unit in the adult detention center into a juvenile detention center due to a statewide shortage of beds for children needing to be detained. What are the pros and cons of proceeding with this juvenile detention center?
This has been in the preliminary stages of consideration. And the reason it's being considered is two things. Is there's a real shortage of beds for juveniles, whether it's incarceration or it's for mental health, and we have a full pot of the jail that's not being utilized. I think where the board currently stands is thinking that just because we have that space open doesn't mean that that's the right location for a juvenile detention center, nor does it mean that Red Wing or Goodhue County taking that on is right. So we really are just starting to learn about options. One of the things that I think the county has to get better at overall is partnering with other small counties. So Goodhue County doesn't have enough juveniles that we need our own juvenile detention center, but we partner with other counties, maybe a group of 5, to solve problems. And I think that's what we're going to have to do with a lot of things, is find partners.
I'll just follow up on that a little bit. For juvenile detention, and we are talking about a juvenile who is violent enough or has committed a violent enough crime that they really do need to be detained as opposed to let out. Now, to know what would work best for a juvenile, an assessment is needed. Well, we are short on people that can make assessments. If we send somebody out to another detention unit, the cost is about $300 to $900 a day. So, I mean, it is a very expensive proposition. If we can only find a bed up in Duluth or down south in Winona, then we have to have deputies drive them back and forth. And that was one of the reasons that we began to think about this direction. We are still seriously thinking about it because the cost to convert it would be a lot of money. We could hold 28 people, but if we only have about 8 to 10 at a time or 8 to 10 in a year, do we need that much?
Thank you. Okay, so those are the 3 questions that were submitted. Pardon me. What we'll do now is I'm going to ask the timekeepers if you could give us 10 minutes. And we're going to ask the 2 candidates if you could take the microphone and you can just pass it between yourselves. We let them know that this is going to be happening. This wasn't a surprise. And you can discuss some of the issues that you see that are before the county board at the time that you would like the public to know about.
Yep.
Does this come on here? Okay, so Linda and I talked about this and tried to think about what people might want to hear about. And we thought about something about the role of being a commissioner and what we're responsible for. We thought about, well, what are the current issues that we're dealing with? We thought about some of the ways that the county board works that you might be interested in. And then we thought about, well, the future, where are we going from here? And
excuse me, Susan, could I ask you to hold the microphone up close?
Okay, and I think we'll start with the current issues, and then we can go to whatever you want to. County board meetings are always interesting. There were 2 things of real interest that came up today. One was we passed the cannabis ordinance, okay? And for the county, that's really a registration. The county didn't wake up one day and decide we want to have cannabis dispensaries in Goodhue County. We'll blame the legislature or give the legislature credit for that. And so the county, the number of dispensaries we have to register is relative to our population. And in Goodhue County, like every county, it's a minimum of 1 for every 12,500 people. And the municipalities can assume that responsibility, or they can give it over to the county. And Red Wing is going to assume that responsibility. Pine Island may assume that responsibility. So what our ordinance really does is say how many feet away from a school, a daycare, a church, a treatment center does it need to be. And then we have to set the fees and the plans for renewal. Do you want to say anything about the cannabis, or?
No, that's pretty much covered it.
Okay.
So Another thing we thought people sometimes will be interested in because of the fact that we get many messages and calls about this, and that is valuation on your home and taxes. So valuation, I mean, it's wonderful. If you own a home, to see the value go up every year is quite exciting, and there are times when it just absolutely jumps up. We don't have a lot of leeway on valuation. Valuation is through legislation, and it is going back to October of the year before, so October of last year, 23. And what homes around you that were of similar value, that would be how your house would be probably evaluated by the assessor. They do have to go by comparables. And that sometimes is a bit shocking, because we have had someone come and say, look, you know, you say the value of my house is this, and yes, I paid that, but my house isn't worth it. It was run down, but I really wanted it, and I got into a bidding war over it. And so I paid this much, but the house isn't worth this much. The problem is you paid that much, so yes, the house is worth that much. And when people, your first argument to anyone would be either your city, if you live in a city, or it'd be your township. That is where you can check with, that is your first place that you would go. You also call the assessor to see if they will come out and reassess. And by the time it actually gets to the county board, we can only go up a little or down a little. We have very, very little leeway by the time it gets to the county board. That being said, there have been times when absolutely positively we have lowered something, a valuation, and when you come to the county board, if you come to the county board, it is up to the homeowner to explain why you don't think that your assessed value is accurate. And so if you choose to do that, I urge you, do your homework and figure out why is it that you are saying that your house is not worth the value that it has been set at. Want to say anything about valuation?
No. Well, there's always lots to say about taxes, but we are committed to try to have increments be small and reasonable and not do big jumps. And I think that recently we've done pretty well with that. And we also, like I said, we're careful about how we spend money. Another thing that we spent a lot of time on this year that you may have read about in the paper is we've been trying to figure out what's reasonable when the county is providing services to other units of government. So when we're providing policing services to Goodhue or to Pine Island, or when we're renting out space to the law enforcement center, what's reasonable? And one of the reasons it becomes a problem is because Red Wing has its own police department. So Linda and I don't think it's really reasonable that the citizens of Red Wing, which are about 1/3 of the county's population, is paying for their own police department and then on top paying additional costs for outcounting cities that don't have police departments. So what we've been trying to do is not make a penny on this, but just charging other communities what it really costs. And because we were charging in the neighborhood of only half of what it costs, it's been a pretty big shock, and we've had some unhappy cities. I joked with Linda, we've made everybody mad by now, so that's kind of what's happened. But in the end, we did decide we were going to do true costs, but we were raising those rates over 3 years rather than in one big jump, and that seemed fair to the citizens of Goodhue County to do it that way. The other thing that came up today that I was going to mention is mental health services in outstate counties is always a problem. And one of the things that HHS has been working on is getting better kind of urgent care. So we're developing a better urgent care for when you call, and so that it can be screened. But now we're also doing more with mobile mental health, so that if there's someone who needs services right away, that can actually happen. And that's a partnership we're doing with a total of 5 counties, which again, I think as a small county, we couldn't possibly do that on our own. So I think that's a good thing too.
So following up on mental health, in the Twin Cities, there's 340 people per mental health professional. In greater Minnesota, in the rural communities, there's 1,960 people per mental health professional. And that disparity is so huge. I don't know what the answer is on that one, but I mean, that is a huge issue. Sue mentioned that, I mean, telehealth is definitely something that is an option for many people. I'm simply going to bring up high-speed internet because my township is Welch Township. And if you've ever been out to beautiful Welch Township, you've got the hills, you've got the valleys, you've got the deeper valleys down by the river. And if you come to a town hall meeting, your cell phone won't work. If you are leaving 61 and coming down County Road 7, there is no internet access. So I personally have been working diligently trying to get broadband to the areas in my district. There are other areas in the county as well, but Welch is one of the hardest because of the fact of the terrain. And the DNR says that you can't have things visible from the river, so they can't have satellites, and it is very, very difficult for cell phone and broadband use down in Welch, which then precludes and precluded in 2020 people being able to teach from home, work from home, go to school from home, telemedicine. And again, when I think I started by saying this, that I mean, looking into the future, the idea that some areas in Goodhue County don't have high-speed internet, I mean, I'll be pushing that till the day that I'm not in office anymore. But I mean, you can't do anything in the future, currently or in the future, without high-speed internet.
And I agree with Linda. The main problem is in the outstate areas, it can cost up to $30,000 to get the high-speed internet to one house, okay? So the costs are way more than the county can afford to spend. And we did recently get a grant that's going to cover part of Hay Creek Township, which we're really grateful for, but that still leaves a lot of the area uncovered. I'm not sure how rural electric worked in the end to get electricity everywhere, but I think it's going to have to be a bigger program than what the county has. The last thing, I guess I'll just say that I think part of our job is to be planning for the future. And we're aware that the county population is aging. We're aware that we're not growing very fast. And I think we have to consider things we can do that would promote growth. I think we have to consider what changes are going to happen because we're aging. And I've said it a couple times, I think we're going to have to partner with some smaller counties and get more creative at getting grants to cover some of the things that we need to get done. Thank you.
Great. I guess I just ask if each of you have any closing comments that you'd like to make.
Closing comments. Well, I just want to thank you again all very much for your time. I appreciate it very much, and I am very grateful that I am running unopposed. It takes a lot of pressure off, I assure you. And yet, I don't take that with a grain of salt. I mean, it is quite a responsible job to be a county commissioner. You really do make decisions for people that are going to last into the future. It is important to do your homework. I think Susan and I both worked very hard at learning the different issues, But I also would like you to know from the standpoint of County Commissioner that there are so many interconnected parts and there are so many departments that it's an incredible learning experience. And if anybody thinks about this in the future, I encourage you to do it. Just know you're going to be studying about things that you probably had never heard about before. But thank you all very, very much.
I agree with Linda. It's a whole lot harder than I realized it was going to be, and also takes a whole lot more time than I realized it was going to take. But it's been very interesting. I've learned a lot, and I've gotten to meet a lot of people in county government, but more importantly, citizens. So I've really appreciated that. I do think we have to continue to talk to each other. I think that we hear an awful lot from our fellow commissioners, from the employees, and maybe not as much from the citizenry as would be helpful. So I hope people feel free to reach out to us. And again, I'll thank you for coming, and feel free to ask either one of us questions after the rest of the forum if you have questions. Thank you.
Great, thank you so much. I hope everyone will join me in welcoming and thanking the two candidates. Thank you so much. I'd like to now call on the two legislative candidates if they could come take the stage, and thanks to our county commissioners. Okay, please join me now, excuse me, in welcoming our the candidates for the State Representative District 20A. We have Pam Altendorf and Heather Arndt. Thank you. We'll follow a similar format, starting out with opening statements from each of the candidates. First, Pam, followed by Heather.
Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules and participating in this. It's really important that we all take this time to get to know the candidates, and I just really appreciate you taking the time. My name is Pam Altendorf, and I am the current state representative of the beautiful District 20A, running for re-election. The first time I ran for a political office was in 2022, was elected, and as a Republican, you know, right now serving in a government that is completely held by Democrat control. And I would say I am running for re-election because with this environment that we've seen in Minnesota, as a mother of 5, a grandma of 1, I am concerned of things like for our education. Minnesota used to be a state that was ranked at the very top of education. We've recently fallen down to number 19. From someone that grew up on a farm, and Goodhue County is very important to agriculture, I am concerned about our farms, and I am also concerned as a businesswoman, a business owner, for small businesses, as the regulations have been really difficult for them here in the state of Minnesota. And so again, I just thank you for participating in the process tonight and look forward to answering the questions.
Heather?
Good evening. Good evening, everybody. My name is Heather Arndt, and I am, for those of you who don't know me, I am from Wanamango area. I graduated from Wanamango, grew up in a small farm just outside of town. I now own my own small farm just outside of town. I've had a great life with a lot of amazing experiences. I am a retired Army Lieutenant Colonel with 2 tours in Afghanistan, and so that was definitely an eye-opening event. I've had some formative experiences, and some of those have led me to where I stand right now. First and foremost, I've lived the importance of long-term care in our communities. I've lived it when my father had a stroke and he was in and out of nursing homes. I know inherently to my core how important it is that we keep our nursing homes in our communities, and I see what's going on now. We've lost Kenyon, we've lost Cannon Falls, Pine Island's in state receivership, and we've recently lost Bayview. This is unacceptable. There are things we can do. If I did not believe there were things we would do, I wouldn't be standing here. But I know there are things we can do to secure our nursing homes and keep them in our communities. I'm also super concerned about our schools, our public schools. I'm a graduate of Wanamingo before it ever even got consolidated. I know how important our public schools are, and I know the great things they can do. And I firmly believe when we listen to our administrators, when we listen to our teachers, when we cut out any partisan conversations, we will find the solution for what they need for success. I believe in rural Minnesota, and that is why I am running.
Thank you. Okay, we'll start with the questions. Pardon me. And I just ask again that you alternate who's going to go first. The first one we'll start with Pam. There is a constitutional amendment on the ballot that allows for a continuation of money that is derived from the Minnesota Lottery to fund the Environmental and Natural Resources Trust Fund. Do you support this amendment? Please explain your answer.
Yeah, thank you for that question. I think this is a really important thing that the public needs to be educated on this question. As you read it, you certainly would think like, wow, this is something I want to support. It reads like, do you want to drink clean water? I do believe this is very deceptive language, and it's not really telling what this is going to do. I would actually suggest to vote no on this, and it's not because I don't support clean water. It is because what's happening on this amendment constitutionally is it is moving the funds from being able to do things like use the funds towards actually a wastewater facility, which we currently need in Goodhue. We're talking about providing one here. It would not be able to use funds in that way, and instead, the funds directly would go to things that are for research and studies. And so we're looking at $11 million that would not be going for actual infrastructure. And I would be very concerned that they're going to nonprofit groups or other things, studies, researches, but it's not actually getting anything done. So I would definitely suggest to vote no, so those funds can go to the state legislature so that they would still be there, but the state legislature would have a vote instead of these going to research and studies.
Same question?
Would you like me to repeat it?
No, I think I'm good. I just wanted to confirm it was the same question.
Yes.
Okay. So we have some definite water quality issues here in rural Minnesota. Some of these have come from nitrates, some of them have come from PFAS. We also definitely have needs within our municipalities that they have the proper water treatment facilities, and we know that those are expensive. There are needs throughout the county, needs throughout the district. Some of them are rural and some of them are urban. As far as putting the money from the lottery into the environmental fund, I would have to agree that I don't think all of it should be going straight into research. I think research is important, but supporting our municipalities as they are trying to find ways to deal with PFAS, which is a problem they didn't create, but yet they have to try and solve to meet the needs of the residents. I think this is something that definitely needs to be taken into consideration. So while I'm good with us using lottery funds for a variety of things, I do think we need to make sure that we keep that broad and open. And then also I think what we need to do is we need to be talking to our municipalities. I know through the Greater Minnesota Council, Municipalities Council or something like that, I know that they've already started looking at this. They've already started working on this. They have some definite recommendations that they would like to make to the legislature, so how they can try and solve these. And I think we need to build in everybody into this conversation, because when everybody is not at the table, that's when we have legislation that doesn't really fit the needs of the state.
Thank you. And Heather, I'll ask if you can just stay there for this next one. You'll go first. Do you feel that the Minnesota voting system, overseen by the counties and supervised by the Secretary of State's office, is safe and secure for accurate results? What, if any, changes would you suggest?
So, yes, it is. It is safe and it is secure. I have had the great opportunity to participate as an election helper, AKA gopher, on election night, hauling a lot of stuff in when the townships bring it in. I put it on a cart and I haul it upstairs. Not this year, not gonna touch it. But I know a lot of folks who work in our counties and in our townships, and they are election officials, and they are honest, good, decent people, and they are doing the good thing. I read threat assessments because that's who I am as a retired lieutenant colonel. I read threat assessments, and I've read the Department of Homeland Security threat assessments at a federal level, and they are clear and they are concise, and they are the ones who know that a lot of this disinformation, a lot of these attempts to undermine our democracy and undermine the faith of the folks in our democracy is coming from foreign actors who very intentionally want to destroy our country to their own benefit. Like this, I didn't make this up. Go read the threat assessments, they're out there. The open source ones, and if that's what I'm able to see in open source, you know there's significant more detail in the secured ones. So what we need to do is we need to listen to the experts who understand what our national security looks like and what our national security threats are like. I've lived that for 28 years. I'm always thinking about our national security and our security issues. When I read the threat assessments from the Department of Homeland Security, I am confident in what they say. I am confident in their assessments. Our elections are safe and secure. They just are. And we need to stop buying in to what is being put out by foreign actors and repeating it, especially folks who take oaths to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And I sound a little emotional because I took that oath at 18 years old, and I've held it my entire life. And I hold it to be true and true. So there you go.
So two things can be true, is we can believe that and I do, that our local elections are run by many good people and meaning well, and that they're fair and honest. So we can believe that to be true. And at the same time, we also can believe that we need to work on this to raise everyone's level of confidence in our elections. And that is what we need to do more of, is raising a confidence level, because this is not a party line issue. There's not one party that is questioning our elections and the other party is not. 2016, we all remember Hillary Clinton doubting the results of the presidential election, and then in 2020. So for us to say that this is a partisan issue is really quite disingenuous. And instead, we need to raise confidence level of everyone. And one way to do that is, it's something like 70 to 80% of Republicans and Democrats of everyone would like to go back to paper ballots. Because do we remember when we grew up, when you woke up the next morning, we actually knew who was the president. We actually knew who won the elections. So there's things we can do. We can have a voter ID, and we can do paper ballots, and we can do common sense things that both parties can get behind, agree on, and raise the confidence level of our elections, and I think that's really important.
Thank you, and actually, I'm sorry, Pam, but you're going to be first, sorry. Pain is a major healthcare expense, and non-drug pain management options should be considered. Currently, acupuncture is covered by some companies, but not all. Would you support a bill that mandates insurance coverage for acupuncture as a treatment for pain? And if not, why not?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say that I think we have to do an analysis of our healthcare, and it shouldn't all be just medicine and pharmaceuticals. I'm a big believer that in using a chiropractor, using acupuncture, there's a lot of ways for us to help deter illness and to also avoid being on costly medications. Because as soon as we're on these costly medications, I'm sure many of you know people who are on them for a lifetime, they often can lead to something else. So they're taking a medication for pain, it leads to another a problem with their health. And so I do think that it's something that we have to consider on how we can do more preemptive care in our healthcare, and would look at those options, that's for sure.
So that is a very interesting and very specific question. I've never personally had acupuncture, but I do know folks who have it and they swear by it, right? I would imagine the insurance industry would be opposed to having something else come under the purview of things for which they are responsible. That said, I think it does merit being looked at and being assessed. The same with chiropractor, right? Like, there's a lot of folks who swear by these methods that don't involve taking a drug. And I think that that has to be honestly looked at. I think it would be an uphill battle. Like I said, the insurance industry has a pretty good grip and a powerful lobby to try and keep things under their control. But I certainly would not be opposed to looking into that further and seeing what we could do to bring that in and help those costs be more affordable for those folks who need those services.
And you're up next, Heather. Pardon me. What changes might you propose to the current laws regarding funding of Minnesota's preschool through grade 12 public schools?
So school funding is actually one of the things that I am very super passionate about. I've been talking to a lot of school administrators, and I'm hearing some consistent themes. One of the themes is how the funding is coming to them in an earmarked fashion, and it's not able to meet their needs, right? And so it is that balance between saying, oh, we've made an unfunded mandate because we didn't include funding, versus it's an overly funded mandate in terms of the fact that it's so tightly controlled on what they can spend it on. I honestly believe if we talk to our administrators, if we talk to our teachers, they are the subject matter experts, and we listen to them. And then we drop all the partisan and we just listen to them, and then have the intestinal fortitude to do the right thing by them. We will find the ways to help them succeed. Our public schools are too important to fail, period, end of statement. The majority of us are public school graduates. We've gone on to have successful lives and careers. And if we're not investing in our kids, then what is wrong with us, right? Like, and not just like throwing good money after bad. I am a pragmatic, moderate, fiscal conservative person, just by the nature of who I am. I didn't grow up with a ton of cash, so I'm naturally careful on how it's spent. And I think if we really talk to them and really listen to them, they will tell us. And some things will have to change, and some people will not be happy about that. And some more funds may have to be given, and some people will not be happy about that either. I've also heard that there is a lot of concern from the schools about the federal government not carrying its share of the burden for special education, and that needs to be honestly taken into consideration and fixed.
I'm on the Education Finance Committee, and this is a big concern for me of the direction that we're going right now in Minnesota. And let's go back in time. 2023, I was sworn in. There was a $19 billion surplus in the state of Minnesota. $19 billion. Unprecedented. We've never had that kind of surplus. And so we had the money to do whatever we wanted in 2023. It was a budgeting year, and we needed to put our money where it made the biggest difference. Unfortunately, in the school realm, what happened is we saw the Democrats give record funding to our schools, to our public schools. You maybe remember the headlines. $2.2 billion, record funding to our public schools. Only there was something missing from that headline. And with that was 65 new, mostly unfunded mandates that came down to our schools. Now, we can talk all day long about we care about our schools, and we want our children to learn, but we have to address the elephant in the room. And that is that our schools have these unfunded mandates that's tying their hands. There's too many regulations. Teachers get into teaching because they want to teach their kids. They're passionate about it. And yet what we grew in 2023 was bureaucracy. In 2023, MDE grew. Minnesota Department of Ed. The dollars are going to the administration. They're not going to the classrooms. They're not going to the children. The Democrats were in control in 2023, in 2024. They own this problem of our education. They own it because the dollars were there, and with misplaced priorities, they did not put the funds where they needed to go, and that was to our students.
Thank you. And Pam, you'll be first on this next one. What is your position on the state government's role in making decisions and possibly criminalizing personal decisions regarding pregnancy and women's health care?
Yeah, thank you for that question. That is such a misconception, and this is being media driven. It's very unfortunate. As far as abortion right now in the state of Minnesota, we are the most extreme state in the nation allowing abortion up to birth. We are the most extreme state in the nation allowing abortion up to birth. That is a fact. And that is what the Democrats, they had HF1. That means that was their #1 priority in 2023. Their first bill, their #1 priority was to legalize abortion up to birth. Now, there was I believe it was an NPR study that showed that even pro-choice voters in the state of Minnesota do not agree with third-term abortion. And so what the Democrats did was legalize abortion up to birth, even going against the majority of their party. The question, no one is talking about criminalizing people with abortion. I think what most Minnesotans want, and even pro-choice Minnesotans, would like to have some reasonableness of abortion. And even European countries have abortion illegal after, and it's set, 12 weeks, 14 weeks. It's just ironic that in 2022, the Democrats ran their campaign on the Republicans being extreme on abortion, and then just voted for the most extreme abortion legislation in our country. And it really, really is just sad.
So I don't believe the government has the right to be in the middle of your personal healthcare decisions, period. Just period, right? Like, these are decisions that you should be making with the people that you love and trust based on your faith and your values, and in conjunction with the medical advice that the doctors can give you. I've said it before, I've said it at every door, and I'll say it again. I don't believe the government has a place in your personal medical decisions, period. This is part of who we are, right? As Americans, to be able to have those freedoms, to make those choices for ourselves. Does that mean that some people will make decisions different than what I would make? Absolutely, absolutely. Who cares, right? You are not living my life, and I'm not living yours. And the government doesn't need to be making those decisions, and it shouldn't be legislated that it does make those decisions. You will make those decisions. You will make them based on what's going on in your life, what's going on in your health, your faith and your values, and trusting the people that care about you. I just do not believe that the government should be making your personal health care decisions.
And this one will be Heather again, sorry.
I know, right? By the time we're done, we'll have it down pat.
According to a July 2024 Wallet Hub study, Minnesota was ranked the best state for health care based on a review of cost, access, and outcomes. How can Minnesota maintain and improve our state's high quality of health care?
So Minnesota is home to a number of really good healthcare providers. We have the world famous Mayo Clinic, which comes out of here. We have, I believe it's St. Anthony's up in the cities. We have some really good healthcare providers, and our universities have some really good programs to continue to build and create the medical professionals that we need. There are a few gaps. We have gaps in the healthcare that folks get when they are in nursing homes. We are desperately short of CNAs. There are gaps in the ability of people to find healthcare when they need home health. And that is also very important. So I think in order for us to build and create a better healthcare environment, what we need to do is we need to identify the gaps that we've got, and we need to find ways to fill them. We have an aging population. Aging populations are going to be in nursing homes. Aging populations do need a little more home health in order to stay in their homes. And these are important things for people to be able to do. And so I would say we need to build out some more programs. I know there was for a while, I'm not positive if it's still funded, a program that helped fund the cost for folks who wanted to get CNA approval, or not CNA approval, but CNA licensure. I'm not sure if that's still into place. Fortunately, the PRO Act passed, and that allowed for rural nurses who worked in our communities for a couple years to help get some student debt relief. That was super important because our rural Minnesota hospitals and clinics are struggling to find nurses, and we need to do what we can to encourage them and build up that network of nurses within our communities. So I think we find the gaps, support what's working, but find the gaps and fill it as it relates to our nursing homes, our rural communities, and home health.
As I had kidney cancer in 2008, I'm very passionate about removing toxic chemicals from our homes, about living healthier, about our environment. That is truly a passion that I have. Right now, not just in Minnesota, but across our country, we're actually very unhealthy. We have about 70% of our people are in the category of being obese. 30% of our children, this was a scary statistic, 30% of our children now are being diagnosed with fatty liver disease. And so we do have an obesity epidemic in our society. So when you ask, how can we improve our health care? How can we improve our health? How can we improve our quality of living, right? We really need to focus, I would say, in this area on, what is in our food, what is in our products, in our home, how can we be healthier, and let's really tackle this obesity problem, because that's just the first step. That is one step towards diabetes. It's one step towards heart disease. It's one step towards cancer. And so that's where I would focus, is on education of the public and really going back to just some of the basics and how can we do better. One thing might be school lunches for kids. Is how can we give them a better meal that's more protein based, that's something that's not going to lead to obesity and to diabetes. So I think there's a lot of places that we can look, but we have to have some honest conversations when we say we're the healthiest state, or how can we do better, because overall our country is really suffering in the healthcare industry.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of the submitted questions. I'd like to now ask each of the candidates to give their closing statements, and we'll start with Heather.
So first, I want to thank everybody for coming, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for holding this event. It's a great opportunity for you guys to get a chance to hear about the candidates that you have. I think what you're going to see, hopefully what you've learned and through the research that you'll do after this, is that you have a clear choice of two distinctly different people. I bring a proven record of leadership. I bring a proven record of bipartisan leadership, working across the board with ladies and gentlemen who are Republicans and Democrats alike. We stay issue focused and we get the job done. And I've got a proven record of that. I've got a proven record of leadership, 28 years, a retired lieutenant colonel. In the military, what we do is we find the problem, we fix it. If it goes wrong, we don't blame others. We look at the situation and we go forward and we fix it from there. It's constantly working, it's constantly taking on the task, and it's constantly bringing all of the voices together. Because when we have all of the voices together, we get a better product. I am ready to work across the table and across the aisle with everybody to make sure that we have all voices heard, because when we have all voices heard, that is when we have solutions that really fit the needs and truly understand the situation that Minnesotans are facing. So I thank you for your time. I thank you for your consideration. And I hope that when you go to vote, you will vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for being the MC tonight, and thank you again for everyone for coming. We are a divided state right now. We are a divided country, and I think, a lot of people want us to move forward into healing. And how we get to healing is we need to have truth. Right now, people do not like extreme left. We do not like extreme right. We truly are a very purple state. And right now, us being in a Democrat trifecta was one Senate seat that the Republicans lost by 321 votes. So we truly are a very purple state that has gone both Democrat and Republican. And I think we need to get back there. And the way we do that is we need to elect people like me that are representing the truth, that are willing to stand up and talk about the issues, educate the public. And we really need to have some honest conversations on how we can make life more affordable. People are struggling right now financially. Gas prices are high, grocery prices are high, our insurance rates went up, our electricity rates are going up. And a lot of those things of why our state is so unaffordable right now is the decisions that was made by the Democrat Party. And so I want us to go back to some common sense legislation to unwind all of these burdensome regulations that's like pushing small businesses and families out of our state and go back to the state that we all want and deserve. So I want to thank you again for all coming tonight. The election is November 5th. Please vote on or before, and I hope I've earned your vote tonight. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Please join me in a round of applause for these candidates for Senator. Thank you so much, candidates. We greatly appreciate you being willing to step up. It takes a lot of work to get prepared for these events and for all of the work of the campaign. So I know what a big deal it is. I also want to thank all of the league members who work so hard to make these events happen, all of the advertising, the getting the questions, all of the work, the timekeeping, everything. We need it all, and it all goes to making these events successful. And thank you again to the city of Red Wing, excuse me, for recording this and then playing it over the city channel. Finally, if you are interested in being involved in League of Women Voters, you can get more information at the table out front. Tomorrow night, there will be an informal meet and greet for all the candidates for city, state, and county at the library, the Red Wing Library at 5:30. So we encourage anyone who'd like to attend that to feel free to come. And with that, we are adjourned. So thank you so much and have safe travels home.